Hello and welcome to Beyond the Paradigm. My guest today is a returning guest, author and researcher Johnny Cirucci. Johnny has wrote a number of books, including Romans of Mass Destruction and Illuminati Unmasked. If you enjoy this episode, can I first of all ask you to give it a like? And secondly, please subscribe to the channel. Well, for the second time, it's a pleasure to welcome you back, Johnny.
Paul, I'm thrilled. I was really looking forward to this, and I thoroughly enjoyed our first meeting. And special thanks to your fan. It was Johnny, right? The other Johnny that brought us together. Really pleased with it. And from my own fans' feedback, they were like, "Man, you were comfortable, and that was a really good interview with Paul." So thrilled, and we're on this today. There's a lot to cover today, and there's a lot more to cover with another get together.
Yeah, definitely. No, this is a massive topic and an extremely important topic. I will start off by saying this to all Christians out there of the Protestant denominations. You do not hate the Catholic Church enough. I can tell you that right now. I'm not talking about individual people. I'm talking about the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican. You do not hate that setup enough. And hopefully you're going to see why I'm saying that. If you've not listened to the first episode I've done with Johnny, you need to listen to that and then come back and listen to this one. So obviously we talked about the Jesuit order, and the head of the Jesuit order is the superior general, or has been referred to as the Black Pope. Johnny, tell us about who the current one is and sort of the history of this position and sort of what you believe through your research, what powers the Black Pope has.
Absolutely. I apologize for my scratchy voice, a little under the weather, and the cough drop, which probably is going to get on some people's nerves. Trying to do the best I can. Let me just back up before we start. Let me back up what you said and tactfully, carefully explain. No, in no way, shape, or form are we attacking a very large portion of the world's population, Roman Catholics. But what we're doing is we're bringing out hidden history, which is amazing because 500 years ago, everyone knew. All of the Christians, the breakaway Christians, the Protestants, the protesters, were in unison that the Roman Catholic Church was the great harlot of Babylon, and that the Antichrist was the entire office of the papacy, just as Christ warned us in Matthew 24. Many will come in my name. If you ask the average Christian today who the Antichrist is, they don't know, because 98% of evangelical fundamentalist Protestant churches preach Jesuit heresy, the Jesuit heresy of futurism, created by Jesuits, Alcazar, Ribera. Unbelievable. Jesuits handed you your faulty eschatology. They erased your knowledge. And you go back further, and all you got to do is, like I said, 500 years. And unanimously, Luther, Calvin, Knox, Zwingli, Wycliffe, Roger Cranmer, Jan Hus, and Jerome of Prague, many of these men were murdered, tortured to death by the Catholic Church. And they all in unity said, it is the Pope who speaks ex cathedra and writes in capital plural pronouns, equating himself with Jesus Christ. He is the little horn of Daniel that speaks the great blasphemies, clearly. And yet today, no one knows this, because those very Jesuits erased them from your understanding, and they trained your pastors at their seminaries, which is, by the way, why I'm not a big proponent of organized religion, nor am I one of going through the motions of doing church. So I just wanted to back you up. For 1,000 years, what were the Dark Ages? It was the Roman Catholic Church burying, destroying making illegal the word of God. And those few that did maintain the word of God, the Valdenzas and the Albigenses, were slaughtered. You ask the average person today, especially a Christian, ask the average Christian, what are the Crusades? The Crusades are when the Christians went and slaughtered Muslims and Jews, right? No. It was the Roman Catholic Crusades, and very quickly, I believe it was Innocent III who commanded a crusade against Christians in Europe. They were throwing Valdenza women and children off the Swiss Alps, dashing them in the ragged rocks. No one knows this. So bring it to where we wanted to start up with. Who is the spirit today is Arturo Sosa, is the superior general. Interestingly enough, if you go back 7 years in 2016, there was that really weird upheaval within both the Jesuits in specific and the Catholic Church in general, unprecedented, where you had both a superior general and a sitting pope stepping down as opposed to leaving office with their death. And so essentially, there were 5 popes in office in 2016 for a couple of months. See, we had oh my goodness, Nicholas. Let's see here. So of course Benedict and Francis and Peter Hans Kolvenbach and goodness, it was Nicholas, right? Okay, and then Arturo Sosa. So we had 5. 3 Jesuit superior generals and 2 white popes, and one of those was a Jesuit. So, and of course, Benedict XVI, Joseph Ratzinger, was himself the prefect for the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith, which was the Inquisition. The Inquisition never went away. And Cardinal Ratzinger was basically the main co-author of Vatican II with Karl Rahner, a Jesuit. So he was basically a lowercase j Jesuit, short-robed Jesuit in 2016. And Paul, I personally believe that I want to make sure to get these names right. And of course, Adolfo Nicholas was the 5th one that I want to make absolutely sure I got his name. Professor Adolfo Nicholas, Peter Hans Kolvenbach, Arturo Sosa, Joseph Ratzinger, Benedict XVI, and Jorge Mario Bergoglio, aka Francis I, all together in 2016. I personally believe that the reason why we had this unprecedented 5 popes was they were organizing the COVID. They were organizing COVID, the pandemic. Unprecedented. It really is. As you examine the pandemic, it really is the false flag to top all false flags, especially if you get into the details of exactly what a virus is and how viruses have really not been isolated. So if you think about that for a minute, the viruses have not been isolated. There is no, just think of the possibility that COVID doesn't even exist. And what was done around the world, not a single country stepped out of line. The tyranny that was enacted, the poisoning that was enacted, the money making that was enacted, unanimously, the one or two, I think it was the president of Tanzania, John Magufuli. He just is one of the great examples. One of the rare ones that tried to step out of line. I don't know what the religion of Tanzania is, but John Magufuli was, of course, a Catholic. He submitted a bunch of sting tests, motor oil and whatnot, and they all came back positive. And surprise, surprise, John Magufuli was kidnapped and killed, and eventually, I think they wrote him up as a COVID death. He fell on a knife 14 times. So, superior generals. The first superior general of the Jesuits were founded on August 15th. The commemoration, they were the Knights of the Virgin Mary on August 15th, 1534 in Paris. And let me see in my list here of who they all were. They were, where's my full list here? So hard to juggle all these notes. Okay. They were, of course, Ignatius of Loyola, Francis Xavier, Diego Lainez, where is my list? By the way, 15 August is the Feast of the Assumption. And they were the Knights of the Virgin Mary. And, I had this right in front of me. I want to get this. Here we are. Here we are. Peter Faber of Savoy, France. Simão Rodrigues of Portugal. Alfonso Salmeron. And Nicholas Bobadilla of Spain. And these were the original Jesuits. And they were the Knights of the Virgin Mary. And 1534, August 15th, 1534 in Paris, France. And they were consecrated on September 27th, 1540, 6 years later, before the Farnese Pope, Paul III, on September 27th. Very, very important day. This number keeps coming up again and again. If you're aware of watching it, oh my goodness, wow, the power of it. So their leader was, of course, Ignatius Loyola was the founder, and 1 year later, on an interesting date, April 19th, Ignatius de Loyola was made the first superior general of the Jesuits. To me, if you follow April 19th throughout history, clearly there's something going on. And as far as I'm concerned, the reason being is to commemorate Loyola as the first superior general. I have a list that I've expanded out 3 days prior to the 19th and 3 days after the 19th. So we'll go to like the 17th of April through to the 21st, 22nd of April. Just an amazing gathering of dates throughout history. On 21 April 753 BC, Rome is considered to be founded on the festival of the shepherd god Pales. 20 April 571 AD, many believe to be the birth of Muhammad. 18 April 1160, Theobald of Bec dies, ushering in Saint Martyr Thomas Becket over poor Henry II, the father of John. The whole story of Thomas Becket, how he was exploited, and Henry II was made to grovel this whole idea of investiture. Familiar with investiture? It is the battle of Roman Catholic kings and queens throughout history. Listen, Roman Catholicism, I hate to be so harsh on it. It's an insurgency, a military insurgency. It's not a religion. It's a military insurgency. There's a reason why the Pope considers himself a king. There's a reason why kings and queens, when they ascend to the throne, they don a different name, and it's a name that traces them back through history, through their family tree that don't fork, their lineage of their blue blood. It's part of the myth of the divine right to rule. The guy running England now, he's not whatever his name originally. It's Charles III. Okay, this traces him back through centuries to prove that he has the blue blood in his veins, the mutant blood, so that he has the divine right to rule over you. By the way, and not to get too distracted, but there's a reason why the royalty of England survives to this day and is constantly promoted in pop culture and entertainment and magazines. That's because the crown of England doesn't belong to England. Those guys that we were just talking about, Henry II and his son John Longchamps, gave the crown of England to Rome in let's see, Magna Carta is at 1215, so I want to say 1213. Okay, and 1213 for the same thing, investiture. Roman Catholicism and investiture. Roman Catholicism is basically a military insurgency. Okay, it's not a religion; it's a hierarchy. It's a military hierarchy. It's what Napoleon Bonaparte called it, and he was one of them. He was an Italian Roman Catholic who was secretly controlled by the Jesuits. Emmanuel Sias was the priest that was helping guide him. So it's a military hierarchy, and it is power, it is control, it is centralization. The truth about Christianity is it is decentralized. To be saved, you need a relationship with Jesus Christ. Done, period. You have to be, as a child, a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Done. If you have that, you're saved. You made him your savior. You obey him, no matter how much it hurts. And your guidebook, your rule book is the Bible. That's it. There is no hierarchy. Ultimate Christianity is thoroughly decentralized. Christ nailed organized religion to the cross. Within 500 years, Satan and mankind put it back and called it the Roman Catholic Church, transformed it from military Rome to religious Rome, and gave it that structure for controlling human beings. And if you look at it and that light, it is slavery. It is control. It absolutely is control. And this is why the Bible was buried and kept underground by the Catholic Church for 1,000 years, because in it are the keys to freedom. The Roman Catholic Church says you need to confess your sins to a priest. James says, no, confess one to another and ask Christ for forgiveness. Jesus Christ himself said, don't come to the Father with sins and anger towards one of your brothers. Go and settle that first, and then ask him for forgiveness. Because if your brother asks you forgiveness and you deny it, you will not be forgiven by Yahweh, by Christ. Your sins aren't forgiven, you're going to hell. Okay, so this is the essence of power and control and slavery, and this is the structure of Catholicism, of priests, bishops, cardinals, popes. This is a structure of control, centralization. And this is what sets the Catholic Church apart from Freemasonry, from Judaism, from all the other globalists, Illuminati, and all the other supposed people that are controlling the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, all that foolishness. They don't have an infrastructure. Roman Catholic John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, Mr. Lord of the Rings, that we see over and over and over and over again. Why? Because he was a Gnostic Roman Catholic. But he had a good idea. He had a brilliant idea and portraying how Sauron needed a skeleton, a structure. Sauron can't be killed, but he needed a body to work through. That's how Satan uses the Catholic Church. He needs a structure. No other group, not like I said, not Freemasons, not Jews, not name the group. They don't have the control, the command and control, as we say in the military, the Catholic Church has. And although they may have a school here, an orphanage here, none of them have thousands upon thousands of hospitals, schools, and orphanages that the Catholic Church has, and none of them have the confessional. Oh, the power of guilt, Paul. The power of guilt to dominate. This is why all the kings and queens and popes have to have a Jesuit confessor. Who was it? E. Howard Hunt is the one, after the overthrow of poor Jacob Benz, that said it was the Jesuits that showed the CIA who the best intelligence gatherers are. There are. And they would not have been able to overthrow Jacob Benz without the help of the Catholic Church and the Jesuits. That's E. Howard Hunt, the great E. Howard Hunt, that said that. And it's a coup made in America is the special where you can see him say that. Real quick, let me go on back to this list real quick. Investiture. I'm going to see it's how it's all connected. It's so easy to get distracted. It's all connected. Theobald of Beck dies. Thomas Becket is martyred. Henry II, John. So again, John gave the crown, Edward's crown, to Rome in 1213. Your royals aren't yours. Your crown isn't yours. English citizens of the United Kingdom, they belong to Rome from 1213. As a matter of fact, it was John giving the crown to the papal legate Andolfo that precipitated the Magna Carta, that precipitated the uprising of the aristocracy, the landed gentry, the lords, to say, wait a minute, we need a rule of law. We're done with these arbitrary kings deciding whatever they want or will. We need protections. Oh, and by the way, those protections don't apply to the peasant class. I hope y'all know that. If everybody was getting excited, the pandemic, we need Magna Carta 2.0. Guess what? Magna Carta 1.0 didn't apply to you either. It only applied to the elite, the landed gentry. Okay. 19 April 1479, Lucrezia de Borgia is born of her father, the Roman Catholic celebrant Pope Rodrigo Alexander VI de Borgia. We're getting into the Borgias. We're going to talk about the Borgias quickly in relation to superior generals, because that's the third superior general we want to talk about. Francis Borgia. 17 April 1521, Augustinian monk Martin Luther is excommunicated from the Catholic Church. 20 April 1534, French explorer Jacques Cartier set sail under commission King Francis I from St. Malo, Brittany, towards what would be named the Gulf of St. Lawrence. 19 April 1541, which is the pinnacle one that I think is before and after. Ignatius de Loyola, what is his? Ignacio Lopez. It becomes the first superior general. 19 April, listen to this one. 19 April 1775. The first shot to the American Revolutionary War is fired at Lexington. Okay. Brilliant book that is a must-have outside of My Five, of course. Get My Five first and then get this book, Rulers of Evil, from Frederick Tupper Saucy. Absolute must-have. Brilliant how he shows that the Revolutionary War was manipulated by the superior general at that time, Lorenzo Ricci. Brilliant. He was known in secret as the Professor. And we got a whole nother show just on how the United States was created as the sword arm of the Catholic Church. So people said, well, the United States is going to go down and then the BRICS countries will rise up. Here's the problem with that. The problem is that Rome controls the United States from behind the scenes, and she has stockpiled all of her coercive force. And this is absolutely true to Scripture, where it says the beast of the land that starts out speaking like a lamb transforms into a dragon. That's this country. This country started out appearing to be Christian and Protestant and has transformed into a Roman papal tyrant, feared around the world. 19 April 1865, 25 million Americans attend a memorial service for Abraham Lincoln in Washington around the country. 22 April 1870, Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, aka Lenin, is born. 17 April 1882, Father Bernard Stamfel, Jesuit, ghostwriter of Mein Kampf, is born in Roman Catholic Bavaria, modern Munich. 20 April 1889, Adolf Hitler is born in Brunau, Austria, off the south bank of the River Inn, across from Roman Catholic Bavaria, Munich. 19 April 1933, Shriner Freemason Franklin Roosevelt made it illegal for commoners to own gold, the so-called Gold Reserve Act, by executive order, if I'm not mistaken. 18 April 1942, Freemason James Jimmy Doolittle terrorizes Japanese civilians and becomes a hero. I believe he was given the Congressional Medal of Honor for that. 17 through 19 April 1961, Cuba's patriots are betrayed and slaughtered in the Bay of Pigs by the Catholics, the CIA, Catholics in Action, I call them. 19 April 1961. By the way, no one I've ever heard covers this. How the CIA, which was founded by Knight of Malta, Wall Street lawyer Bill Donovan, he is lionized as this daredevil, do. I call him mild Bill Donovan. Also given the Congressional Medal of Honor, and I have to tell you, I've read the citation. I'm not impressed. I think it was gifted to him. The OSS created the OSS, and it has served two of the biggest criminal organizations in human history, the CIA and the FBI. And they were both founded by devout Roman Catholics. Wall Street war profiteering lawyer Bill Donovan founded the OSS. Charles Joseph Bonaparte, the great grandnephew of Napoleon Bonaparte, founded the FBI. Okay, it's the Jews, Johnny. It's the Jews. So no one I know of talks about how the CIA regularly encouraged patriots around the world to rise up against their communist tyrants. And they were promised help by the CIA only for the CIA to turn its head. In fact, this actually started, the ones that I am aware of, started before the CIA. It started with poor Poland in Warsaw in 1944, where Roosevelt himself encouraged the Polish resistance. Roosevelt and Churchill, two Freemasons, encouraged the Polish resistance to rise up against the Germans. And they promised, at the bare minimum, they promised Joseph Stalin, an ordained Jesuit. I have two sources on that. Joseph Stalin, an ordained Jesuit, a Georgian, not a Russian, ordained at the supposed Orthodox seminary in Tiflis, Georgia. And this is part of his Ludwig. Emil Ludwig was his biographer. That's one source. Frank O'Collins is another source. An ordained Jesuit, just an absolute butcher, was there on the outskirts of Warsaw, and they were promised relief. Rise up now. You will have help. Surprise, surprise. Not sure. The Yalta boys, they all got to in Yalta and carved up the world and guaranteed the Cold War, guaranteed the reign and supremacy of the Soviet Union for the next, whatever it was, 40, 50 years. The Masons, oh, by the way, Stalin, a Mason and a Jesuit, Churchill, a Mason, Roosevelt, what are Masons? Masons are secret keepers. Why do we need secret keepers running the world during a war? Because of corruption, because of criminal activity, because it was a war to slaughter. It was not a war to bring freedom. Please don't believe that. So they were betrayed in Warsaw in 1944. And then it was Hungary in 56, I believe, told the same thing. They were encouraged by the CIA, rise up. And the CIA looked the other way and they were slaughtered. They got no help and no aid. The Poles got no help and no aid in 44. Hungary got no help and no aid in 56. They were encouraged to rise up. And then the West looked the other way, and the Russian tanks, Soviet tanks, slaughtered them, mowed them down. Same thing in Bay of Pigs in Cuba. What did I say? 61, right? April 19th, 1961. Cuban patriots were slaughtered on the beaches of the Bay of. It was McGeorge Bundy, who purposefully denied their air cover. It was 6 A-26 fighter bombers were guaranteed to be there for you to make. No, they were nowhere to be found, and they were slaughtered. And then 1968, Prague, Czechoslovakia, the exact same thing happened again and again. What no one talks about this. Why would the CIA encourage patriots to rise up only to allow them to be slaughtered, ensuring a more firm control by our dreaded enemies, the Soviets? Why would they do that? By design, because they wanted the Cold War to continue, because the CIA doesn't work for the American people, doesn't work for the West, doesn't work for freedom, works for Rome. 1961, 22 April 1970 was the first Earth Day. 19 April 1971, Russia launches the Salyut space station. Sure, they did. April 1972, lunar module Apollo 16 touches down on moon location Descartes, Rene Descartes, a short-robed Jesuit. But when I say that, I mean someone who is not ordained, but thoroughly powerful and used by the Jesuits. April 1982, NASA announces a crew of STS-7 Challenger, Sally Ride along with the first black astronaut, University of Pennsylvania's Guyon Bluford Jr. April 1989, a jilted homosexual sailor sabotages the 16-inch turret number 2 on the Iowa. Explosion kills 45 servicemen. April 1993, Jesuit-trained Bill Clinton and his gender indeterminate attorney general. I'm sorry, whoever wrote this was a jerk. Janet Reno burned alive 80 renegade Adventists, men, women, and children in Waco. April 1995, 168 die, 19 of them children, when the Alfred P. Murrah building in Oklahoma City is torched by the Clinton administration. Because if you believe that was a fertilizer bomb that did to that building, then please, you need to take some basic engineering courses. April 1999, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold kill 13 at Columbine High School. April 2005, Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger becomes Benedict number 16. April 2010, 11 die after the British Petroleum's Deepwater Horizon oil rig is sabotaged. What was the CEO? BP Horizon CEO, Anthony, what was his name? Tony Hayward. Surprise, surprise. Tony Hayward short sold his stocks right before that happened. Oh, wow. What luck. What acumen. Boy, he was sharp. He was on it. He should have been strung up. Let's see here. 20 April 2020, Germany finally lifts the coronavirus restrictions. 20 April 2020, the United States House, like the Senate, will not return to D.C. until the 20 April passing of a $2 trillion coronavirus stimulus package, which ended up going much of it to the Catholic Church. Unbelievable. So there's just the numbers. April 19th. I don't know if you've come across April 19th as an important date. There's my running list and my reason why, Superior General. So to commemorate the Superior General, I wanted to talk a little bit about Francis de Borgia, the third Superior General. I have an interesting source here. The Southeast Asian Water and Power Alliance was a blog that my my beloved friend and brother Doc Felipe, my Huckleberry, I call him, found this blog post. Really amazing information. I have nowhere else do I have this. Francis de Borgia, who was the nephew of Rodrigo de Borgia, Alexander VI. If anybody doesn't know, people get into the gory details of the criminal corruption, the sexual deviancy of the papacy, the vicar of Christ, right? The vicarius filii Dei. If you write that out in Latin, the numbers add up to 666 just by coincidence. The level of depravity of these Rodrigo de Borgia, Alexander VI, really one of the top 10 of the most depraved human beings to ever be called Pope. There is this ridiculous myth and legend that Lucrezia Borgia, his daughter that he supposedly never had because he was celibate, don't you know? She was the master poisoner. No, she wasn't. She was lifted up by the Jesuits and by the frauds of history to take the blame for the Borgia family. The Borgia family, Cesare, Rodrigo, the father, Juan, these were just monsters, murdering monsters. Here's poisoning. Poisoning is a fine art. Poisoning is a fine art. The fine arts is implored with how you can, and these demons experimented on animals and human victims for years. What they did was they had to deftly alter the dosage so that the victim definitely died, but died well after the murderer was free and clear. And this is vaccination. This is vaccination today, where you receive. So if you are with me, and I can cover this another time, you go to johnnycirucci.com, go to my video hubs on Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, right on. I have a clip that I was doing an interview with Greg Wyatt on virus isolation. It is a fraud. It is entire fraud. Viruses have never been isolated. They don't exist. And as a matter of fact, the purpose of the virus isolation process is a bunch of smoke and mirrors, is to make it so convoluted, so complicated that by the time you look at what's finished, you have no idea what you're looking. The experts have no idea what they're looking at. And as a quick aside, what makes more sense? What really makes you ill? What really makes you healthy? Your environment, your terrain, what you're eating, the radiation around you, how you're sleeping, your stress, all of these many factors. What makes more stress? But more sense? All that is what makes you healthy or what makes you ill? No. Medicine and science says, no, none of that matters. What matters is this tiny, teeny little thing that's in your body. You can't see it. As a matter of fact, we pull it out of you and we send it away to get tested. You trust us. We will tell you if you have this teeny tiny boogie thing, and that will say whether or not you are ill or healthy. That will tell you whether you have HIV/AIDS. That will tell you whether or not you have the coronavirus. Oh, wait, no, it's not coronavirus anymore. It's much more scary. It's COVID. Okay, has nothing to do with you eating McDonald's all the time. Nothing to do with you drinking soda pop. Nothing to do with you spending too much time with Bluetooth and microwave and various forms of radiation. That is nothing. Don't change a thing. Okay, what makes more sense? Everything around your environment, you're trained. There are people, listen to me, Paul. Please, in the audience, please. You guys know this. You guys know this. There are people who have willed themselves to death. There are people who have very, very close marriages, go their whole lives, and their spouse dies, and within hours or days, they are dead too. They willed themselves to death. Okay. Don't tell me about any of this. Okay. So, all right, back to superior generals in relation to poisoning. I knew where I was. I know exactly what's all connected. Poisoning. Okay. This is why. So if you accept with me that there are no viruses, pause. That's crazy. I know it's crazy. Accept it for a moment. And the follow-on question is, what the hell are vaccines for? What the hell are vaccines for if viruses don't exist? They have no positive purpose. Zero. And in fact, what they are slow poisoning. A little bit here, a little bit there. And now, supposedly, I've heard that the vaccination schedule for children in the U.S. is like 70 shots over time. Are you kidding me? 70 shots over time. And there's no positive purpose. And oh, by the way, you will never see. Big Pharma is protected by the United States government by law. Ronald Wilson Reagan, the Childhood Vaccine Injury Act protects Big Pharma from any kind of lawsuit and also protects them from discovery. If they were ever sued, you don't get to see their evidence. Who has that line? That's why Bill Gates is the vaccinator. What is that doofus, that geek? What does he know about medicine? By the way, pause. What is medicine? Medicine implies that you need a substance to get healthy. Medicine, you mean health? You mean physician? What does Bill Gates know about health or vaccination? He knows that he wants you to be vaccinated. He knows that he doesn't like people. He knows he's all about population, just like his devout Roman Catholic ex-wife. Okay, they're all about population control, and they're also about vaccination. Is it possible that they want to use vaccination to kill yous off? It's crazy. Just talking crazy here for a minute. Okay, so again, that's my punchline in relation to vaccines. If viruses don't exist, and again, look this up. Sorry for saying it again because I've said this before. Look up whether or not viruses have actually been isolated, and they haven't. So vaccines have only one purpose, and that's to poison you. And that's you, but mandated by law. Mandated by law. Your pets, your children, you will be pumped with these noxious There should be a revolution. There should be a revolution over this. There should be a revolution. When you realize they're saying you and everything you love will be poisoned. You will have all the vaccine injury I have. You will be poisoned. Your beloved pets will die early because you have to have them poisoned. Don't get me started on that. So back to the original, the very first Superior General, Ignatius de Loyola. So I have this amazing blog post from Southeast Asia Water and Power. It's like, what is water and power? How getting this deep into history and the Jesuits for? I don't know. This has been disappeared off the internet, but I have it archived and downloaded. Jesuits founded originally in Society of Jesus, August 1534. Good for you. On the during Assumption of Mary. Oh, wow. Do they just lift up Mary because she is the Queen of Heaven. She is the co-mediatrix and co-redemptrix. Held at Chapel of St. Denis by Ignatius de Loyola, Francis Xavier, Alfonso Salmeron, Diego Lainez, Nicolas Bobadilla of Spain, Peter Faber of France, Simão Rodrigues of Portugal. The Constitution was approved by Francis Borgia. Member. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot to tell you a little bit extra of the Borgia outrage. Cesare was a bastard son of Rodrigo, Alexander VI, the bastard son. Cesare murdered his brother, John, murdered his brother in a jealous fit of rage over who would have more sex with their sister, Lucrezia, and threw his dead body into one of the Roman rivers there. Who knows that? Cesare was a cardinal in the Catholic Church. All of them were illegitimate children of Rodrigo. Okay? The sitting Pope, Alexander VI. Oh, by the way, he picked that name for Alexander of Macedon, not for any pious Christian. He wanted to show what a military conqueror he was. Okay? So you had Cesare, an animal and a butcher, Lucrezia and Juan. All of these were the illegitimate children of the sitting chaste Pope, Rodrigo. And they were all, including the Pope himself, including Rodrigo, was also having sex with his daughter. Okay? So Cesare murdered Juan, and I threw him in the Tiber, I believe. His dead body in the Tiber over who would have more sex with their sister. This is the papacy. This is the Roman Catholic Church. Okay. Who knows this? Nobody knows these things. But if you dig, you'll find it. They have to admit it. Sometimes they'll rewrite history, but a lot of times they have to tell you. So Francis Borgia was the nephew of Rodrigo. And this blog says that he was the main financier. And there was a gradual transformation of the Jesuits. It was Francis Borgia that took Loyola under his wing. It was Francis Borgia that saved Loyola. Loyola was super dedicated. Loyola was too Catholic for the Catholic Church. Loyola had been arrested by the Inquisition twice. And according to this blog, it was Francis Borgia that saved him from being executed. So let's see here. He was the promoter of the adoption of the papal bull, Regimini Militatis, on 27 September 1540. By the way, 27 September was adopted by Google, the most powerful search engine in the world, as its birthday. Go figure that. The most powerful Google, which also gobbled up and controlled YouTube. If you want to be disappeared, if you want to promote videos out there and you don't have access to YouTube because they have censored you and deleted you, you're done. You're done. Who runs that? Who controls that? I don't know. Why is Google's birthday the 27th of September? Let's see here. Borgia family, Alessandro Farnese Paul III was granted the official order status of the Jesuits since 1540. Ignatius of Loyola was noticed by Francis Borgia. Let me skip ahead a little bit. On the death of Loyola in 1557, Borgia wanted to secure his appointment as the second superior general. However, his ambitions were thwarted by his arch enemy Giovanni Carafa, also known as Paul IV. Carafa had always been one of the biggest opponents of Alexander VI de Borgia and promptly named Diego Lainez, one of the co-founders, Jaime Lainez, as the second superior general. Paul IV died in August of 1559 and was succeeded by Giovanni de' Medici. Pius IV. In both cases, the superior general of the Jesuits, Diego Lainez, aligned himself with the pontiff and was virtually untouchable. However, when Pius IV tortured and murdered Benedict Welcomed and other members of the papal families later in what he called was an unsuccessful conspiracy against him, Borgia acted, and Pius IV was himself poisoned and killed on 9 December 1565. A few days later, Francis Borgia also murdered the co-founder of the Jesuits, Diego Lainez, the second superior general, so that he could step into place as the third superior general. What other organization? The Society of Jesus, don't you know? Why do we have Jesuits teaching astronomy and archaeology, paleontology? Did you know that when Charles Darwin, whose grandfather was a Freemason, Charles Darwin came up with the ridiculous idea of evolution, which goes against all of the laws of physics. The second law of thermodynamics says that all matter has a natural tendency to go from order to chaos. All matter, everywhere. Okay? If you leave your desk for time, what happens? Things have dust, clutter, it becomes chaotic. Okay? All matter goes from order to chaos. There are no exceptions. Oh, I'm sorry, except your existence. Your existence. We start from a pool of sludge to become the brilliant complexity that the human body, the self-healing, the self-replicating, the human body, brilliant complexity, just utter foolishness, Darwinian evolution, and yet it's taught with a death grip, a white-knuckle death grip, as if it's real science. And there's no record for it. There's there's a Michael Behe, professor at the University of Lehigh. I went to war with his nephew, also named Michael Behe. Crazy story. Has a theory that he coined the phrase irreducible complexity. If you look at organs in the body, such as the brain, the heart, the eye, a feather, look at a feather through an electron microscope and the intricacy of the intertwining of combs. A duck's feather not only is flight worthy, but watertight. Okay. If these organs were any less complex, they would not function. You cannot backwards plan what is less than an eye, what is less than a brain, what is less than a heart, what is less than a duck's feather. There's no way to imagine them because the organism that needs them would not function. How do you function without eyes? How do you function without a heart? How do you function? What was a simple brain? What was a simple eye? What was a simple heart? What was a simple? No, they don't function. They die. They die. So irreducible complexity, brilliant idea that Michael Behe came up with. So absolutely absurd. And when people start to question evolution, they say, well, we've looked in this fossil record that you claim is out there, and we're not seeing any evidence of tadpoles becoming chimpanzees, becoming human beings. Matter of fact, there's a big gap between chimpanzees and human beings, and we'll call it the missing link. Did you know a Jesuit priest used the Catholic Church's knowledge and science in creating relics, in false dating of relics, to create the fraud that was the original, the so-called missing link, Piltdown Man. No less a Jesuit priest than Teilhard himself, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, created a fake missing link to come to the rescue of Darwinian evolution. What? Why would a Jesuit do that? Why would a Jesuit attack the Bible and come to the aid of Darwinian evolution? Because that's whose side they are on. Because they are enemies of God and his word. Okay, so what, this makes no sense. All right. So where did there had to be a start point for life, for creation? What was the start point? Well, the start point was the Big Bang. And the Big Bang says before there was nothing and then it exploded. That's the Big Bang. Okay. Georges Lemaitre, I believe I'm saying that, a Belgian Roman Catholic priest, is the godfather of the Big Bang. Why are these Catholic priests coming to the rescue of the forces of so-called pseudoscience, fake science? What is science? What is science? Science uses the scientific method. It's observable, it's testable, it's repeatable. You can isolate the variables. You can create an experiment and duplicate it. You can create a hypothesis. Evolution is none of these things. Evolution is not observable, testable, repeatable. Evolution does not follow the scientific method, and yet it's taught with a white knuckle death grip. Why? Because it attacks the Bible. Oh, it's science, don't you know? It's not science. That's the amazing thing. Christians are lampooned as these inherit the wind. They right Hollywood. Hollywood always comes to the aid of the Jesuits of Satan. Hollywood always comes to the aid. Right? The Scopes trial, the monkey Scopes trial, utter fraud, and yet they spin Christians as the fools. Here and stop up your ears. Oh, we're not paying attention to science. No. Meanwhile, it's the exact opposite. Real Christian men are the men of real science, because they say, wait a minute, this is not observable, testable, repeatable. The scientific method does not apply to this, and therefore it's a hypothesis, not even a proven hypothesis. Okay, so, dude, we've only covered the Superior General, and we're already almost out of time. Let me look at some of the other stuff that we were going to talk about. Let's see here.
I just want to jump in here a little bit, Johnny.
Please do.
So yeah, I mean, they want us to accept that science is all about measurement and reason, as long as we allow them one huge miracle of the preposterous idea that everything that exists has come from nothing. Which,
as given to you by Catholic priest.
Yes.
As given to you by
Catholic
priest.
They know is impossible. It's impossible. It's scientifically impossible. And life cannot come from non-life. And I've had conversations with people over the years, and I'll say, you know, about like one of the things over here at the minute, they've got a bill going through Parliament to do with assisted suicide or self-murder. But they're calling it assisted suicide because obviously the teaching is, well, it's your life. You can do what you want with it. Well, I'm sorry, but it's not our life. And when you say that to people, they go, and I say, well, where did you get your life from? And they'll say, well, I got it from my parents. So then I begin with the ridiculous questions. Then I start saying, well, who gave them their life? And they'll say, my grandparents. Who gave it them? Their mum and dad. Who gave it them? And I keep going, and I say to them, can you see how ridiculous this is now becoming? Because we're going into infinitum here. We can't do that. So there has to be a source. I said, your parents are lender borrowers. This pen belongs to me. I'm the owner. If I lend you the pen, Johnny, you're now a borrower. You lend it to someone else. You're a lender borrower, but I'm the owner. So I've said there has to be an owner. There has to be a being that had life in itself that gave life to some other being, a created being. So the uncreated created, because the ridiculous question, the schoolyard question, who created God? Well, the very definition of God, who you and I believe in, is that he is uncreated. So all these arguments are put forth, but like you said, they have the origins in the Catholic Church. Why? You said it. They're the enemies of God. We need to understand like how serious this is and what the tentacles of the Catholic Church are everywhere. What they've got the finger in all these pies, and they're involved in everything. I mean, like you talked about, and this actually leads into the next question. You said that it's an insurgency. It's not a religion. It's a military order that's insurgent, and that leads into November the 5th, 1605 in England. something that everybody over here knows about, because every November the 5th or thereabouts, depending on what, if November the 5th's on a Wednesday, they might celebrate it on a Saturday, but we have bonfires, we have fireworks. When I was growing up, we used to build our own bonfires. Now, because of health and safety, they have to all be organized and all these things. But yeah, we all have fireworks. Everybody takes part. You know what? People who are Muslims over here now go to bonfires. Even the Catholics do. I don't even think they realize what it's all about. But we all celebrate bonfire night. We go every year. Even now, I'm 45. We still go and see fireworks. So I'm going to let you take over, Johnny, because for those who aren't familiar, the Gunpowder Plot is a pretty big deal.
So remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. The general idea was that a cabal of ordained and lay Jesuits got together to kill the Protestant King of England, James I of England, James VI of Scotland, who happened to be the son of Mary, Queen of Scots, a hyper devout Roman Catholic. But suddenly, James I, who was himself a sexual deviant, was a Protestant and a Christian. Well, the plot, as the plot goes, Henry Garnet, the Jesuit provincial, along with other members. Let's see, do I have a list of the conspirators? Let's see.
I think I've got some.
Gunpowder.
You've got like Robert Catesby, Guy Fawkes, Thomas Percy, John and Christopher Wright, Thomas Wintour, Robert Wintour, Francis Tresham. Those are some of the names I've got.
Yes, excellent. And Guido Fawkes, Robert Catesby, Thomas Percy, Henry Percy, Thomas Winter, yes. And of course, Henry Garnet, the provincial. Yes, William Parker, Baron Monteagle. Let's see here. Maybe we're getting here mixed up here, crossing over. I don't know that he was okay. No, I'm sorry. These are not the members.
Lord Monteagle. He was the one who received the letter warning them.
Okay, these were key players, not the conspirators.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Right. So Guido Fawkes was simply a fall guy. The conspiracy was that barrels of gunpowder were placed in the basement at House of Lords, and the House of Lords was going to get entirely blown up simply to take out James I, which, if you know anything about the Jesuits, they picked up their acumen of poisoning from the Templars. The Templars picked up their acumen of poisoning from the assassins. This is centuries. This is centuries of expertise and knowledge. Who came up with the idea to fill the House of Lords with barrels of gunpowder in order to take out one man? Was it Wile E. Coyote? Seriously? I usually throw in the joke of how the CIA supposedly wanted to had like 365 plots to kill Fidel Castro. This is the same organization that easily blew the brains out of a sitting president in Dallas, poor John F. Kennedy. And yet, with 300 and whatever ridiculous number of times, they could not take out a little tin dictator in Cuba. Why? Because he was a lowercase j Jesuit. His mother was a hyper devout Roman Catholic. He was educated twice by Jesuit schools and once by a Catholic school. Fidel Castro was. The Roman Catholic Church demanded that Fidel and his family reign in Cuba, and that's why all this ridiculous idea of the CIA trying, and they just can't get it done. Exploding cigars. Wile E. Coyote was again responsible. He came back to try and kill off Fidel Castro. Patently absurd. So I will once again point back to rulers of evil in relation to whether or not the Gunpowder Plot was blown cover as cover, it was a false flag. It was designed, the Vatican knew that the best they could get was James. James, who was more interested in finding another young boy lover than he was really getting involved in politics. So he was a Protestant of convenience, as was Elizabeth. Elizabeth I was, both James and Elizabeth put Christians to the stake, put Protestants to the stake for being too unruly. Okay? The greatest Protestants to ever rule, bar none, were Oliver Cromwell and poor Edward VI, the son of Henry VIII. Edward VI was trained by John Knox and Roger Cranmer. He was one of the rare true believers in being Christian. And he was not, he was poisoned before he was could take manhood, poisoned as a teenager. And then he put in Jane Grey as a replacement, and then Bloody Mary Tudor murdered her and started her reign of blood, murdering 300 men, women, and children simply because they weren't Catholic. They were Christian. They were enemies of her and the state. So the Gunpowder Plot was a desire to give cover for their agent, James I. This is the conscriptor behind the great authorized Bible. The King James Bible was authorized in 1611. What was it authorized to do? It was authorized to replace the Geneva. Why? Because the Geneva had footnotes that were critical of kings, queens, and popes. We can't have that. Get that out of there. Now, by the grace of Almighty God, the translators of the King James used Desiderius Erasmus's fantastic Textus Receptus, and eventually the King James Authorized Version would become one of the best of all time. Unfortunately, today it is masked in Old Elizabethan English. That is the big takeaway. That is the big challenge, the big handicap for anything. But what you want is you want a Bible based on the Textus Receptus. And unfortunately, those are your two choices. You've got Old English in the Geneva, Old English in the King James, and the Textus Receptus, which is the tried and true manuscript for the New Testament, or you have the Codex Sinaiticus by that Jesuit, Constantine von Tischendorf, lowercase j Jesuit, or you've got the Codex Vaticanus of Rome. Okay, you have these flawed, purposefully error-filled modern Bibles. Those are your two choices. So the Gunpowder Plot, blown cover as cover. This would give James, their agent in London, cover. And James turned around. Again, I'll go back to Rulers of Evil when he says on page 68, Frederick Tupper Saucy, Gary Wills in his book Witches and Jesuits points out Macbeth is an elaborate condemnation of the Jesuits as Satanists, murderers, and witches. Macbeth is one of the many of its period's powder plays, a genre in which certain buzzwords well understood by contemporaries memorialize the guilt and execution of 8 Jesuits for having schemed the Gunpowder Plot of November 5th, 1605. The plot aimed to blow up the entire government of Great Britain, including the royal family, in a single catastrophic explosion under the House of Parliament. How could a play defaming Jesuits be of service to the Jesuit agenda? As we shall see, warfare and defense of the papacy requires extravagant measures. In fact, both the Gunpowder Plot, which failed, and the celebration of its detection, which lives on in Macbeth, served Rome abundantly. James I, who declared himself the plot's divinely illumined discoverer, blamed the plot on Jesuits and papists. But at the same time, James exonerated less fanatical Catholics. According to Wills, the plot gave James his best opportunity to separate loyal, moderate Catholics from the mad extremists of the plot. By the way, no such thing. As long as you believe that your salvation relies upon the Pope, you are a Catholic extremist. Period. You are a Catholic extremist, whether you know it or not. If in that moment you're in the confessional and the priest says, my son, my daughter, the Holy Father needs you. He needs you to poison the CEO. He needs you to commit industrial espionage. He needs you to assassinate so-and-so. Catholic Church, the Roman Catholics are the real jihadis. Roman Catholics are the real jihadis. Oh no, jihadi, beheading. Have you ever read Fox's Book of Martyrs? Who the real beheaders are? Did you even know the Fox's Book of Martyrs is? Volumes of the Catholic Church murdering Christians. Back to Saucy. In short, the plot secured England for loyal, moderate Roman Catholicism for a Roman Catholic insurgency. The Catholic Church gave up 8 Jesuits, capital case, lowercase, and in fact, I myself, let me finish this citation. In Reasoning of Superior General, particularly of General of the Gunpowder Plot, and Shakespeare Theater Claudio Acquaviva, the sacrifice of 8 Jesuits was a small tactical price to pay for moving the King of England to the express confidence of the Pope's British subjects, estimated at half the population of the realm. So in my latest book, Disciples of Ra, I even question who was executed. Let's see here. Lowndes wrote a book titled Unity of Medical Electricity, illustrated in a series of cases and practical observations. He is credited as Francis Lowndes, medical electrician, published in St. Paul's Churchyard, London, 1791. St. Paul's Churchyard is both a location and a cathedral. I'm reading from Disciples of Ra, my 5th book. It was founded for Catholics in 604 AD, and then converted by Henry VIII to his personal religion of Anglicanism. It is, of course, it has retained all of its Catholic regalia and become Anglican, just as the Church of England has done the same. The Church of England is simply Catholic light. The vicinity of St. Paul's Church was and is used for trading, prostitution, and formerly executions, like any good location of a massive ornate Christian cathedral. In 1606, the gunpowder conspirators were hung on the Tyburn tree, culminating with Jesuit Provincial Henry Garnet on 3 May of 1606. Conflicting sources, perhaps from sympathy, claim Garnet was brutally drawn and quartered. However, Parliament.uk states definitively that only Guido Fawkes, was tortured for giving a false name. So, who was tortured? Who was executed? I don't even know that all 8 conspirators were actually tortured and or executed. Here's the kicker. The Guy Fawkes mask. If you want to stand up against the machine, Paul, the Jesuit machine, you want to take a stand against the Jesuit machine, you put yourself behind a Jesuit face mask. Are you kidding me? Talk about control. It's the Jews, Johnny. It's the Masons, Johnny. Are you kidding me? Who is Guido Fawkes? The fall guy. He was the poor guy at the door when suddenly the word came by mysteriously, anonymously. Oh my goodness, there's a plot to kill the king. God save the king. Quick, go to the cellar. There's poor Guido Fawkes standing by the door. Okay. He is become a legend. Oh, and let's not forget V for Vendetta. Right? Of the, oh my goodness, what are the two brothers that became 2 sisters who also gave us Matrix, right? The same guys. The Wachowskis, right? Right. The Wachowski brothers that became the Wachowski sisters. And questionably whether or not they actually converted. There's a little bit of cross-dressing. You're going to go, we turned in our genitalia. Sure you did. The same guys that gave you the Matrix, the brilliance of the Matrix, which a guy that I interviewed, Tom Alto, said he was stolen from him. The guys that gave you V for Vendetta, that right up to the door of the Gunpowder Plot, and never says the word Jesuit in the entire movie. Okay, that's real power, Paul. That's real power. And so I absolutely agree with Frederick Tupper Saucy III that the Gunpowder Plot was blown cover as cover. That, listen, these people. Talk about murder by assassination. Talk about the power and the technology that they have. It is said, and I covered this in my 4th book, Romans of Mass Destruction, that Catherine de' Medici, the Italian Roman Catholic Queen of France, murdered the Protestant mother-in-law of Henry of Navarre. Good King Henry IV of France murdered her by simply poisoning one of her gloves. And when she put the glove on, it translated the poison into her body. You have the ability to do that, but you have to blow up the entire House of Lords just to get James I. Come on. Come on. So I entirely agree with Frederick Tupper Saucy, that the Gunpowder Plot was blown cover as cover to do exactly what Saucy said, is to give cover for, is to further establish the Roman Catholic insurgency in England. And like I said, who are the royals? Why are the royals constantly shoved up? They don't belong to you. They don't belong to England. They belong to Rome. The crown was given by John to the papal legate on loan, and the papacy loaned it back. Those aren't your jewels. Those aren't your jewels. Those belong to the Pope. Does anybody know that?
It's a massive rabbit hole, this one. And
oh my goodness.
I mean, we're over an hour in. I've asked 2 questions. There's just so much more. So guys, I'm not going to go to my next question because it's not going to do it justice. And there's just so much more to this. And, you know, we need another episode for definite.
Maybe 2.
I mean, the thing is, I sent you 5 questions initially, didn't I, Johnny? And then we cut them to 3. We've done 2. So there's still another 3 that I had in mind to talk about. So we're definitely going to have to do another episode. So we will bring this one to a close, Johnny, because we've had a lot of information. And as usual, guys, I always encourage people, you know, don't just take what me and Johnny have said. Go and do your own research. I always encourage people to do their own research. That's what Johnny's done, and he's wrote 5 books by doing his own research. Just remind people, Johnny, where they can touch base with you and tell people where they can get your books.
Yes, sir. Love you, Paul. This has been an absolute thrill. Honestly, I want to push for 2 more shows, because maybe 3. Freemasonry, Zionism, and Islam. Each one of those are a show in and of themselves for just an hour. If we hit this for each one for an hour, we could spend an hour on each one of those. So if you have the time, I would love to be thrilled to come back 2, 3 more times to cover those. They're all fantastic topics. Johnny at johnnycirucci.com is my email. Johnny Cirucci, JOHNNYCIRUCCI.com is my website. Johnny at johnnycirucci.com is my email. My 5 books, Illuminati Unmasked, Secret History, Eaters of Children, Romans of Mass Destruction, and Disciples of Ra. They are currently available on Amazon, should be available on Amazon around the world for now anyway. And like I said, I maintain video hubs. I ask the forgiveness of my beloved Christian brothers and sisters in Christ. If you, I'm on my best behavior right now. In my interviews, I'm on my best behavior. When I do my shows with myself or my team, I get a little Italian. I get a little old class soldier, and I'll have a little coarse language. I will never take the Lord's name in vain, but I ask for forgiveness. Go to my video hubs of Odyssey, Rumble. It's either Johnny Cirucci or Resistance Rising. You'll find me on Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute, UgTube, and Brighteon. And so I'm not a lot on YouTube. So those are my hubs, and that's where you're going to find me.
Great stuff, Johnny. Yeah, definitely. You're going to have to come back on more than another time. Like you said, them 3 topics, so they're fascinating. And people are definitely going to enjoy them. Like they enjoyed the first episode, they're going to like this. It's a massive topic. It's an important topic. And like I said, guys, you don't hate the Catholic Church enough. I hope that the information we're giving you is showing you how evil they are, how really wicked. And like you were saying, Johnny, you know, you've got your guy there and he goes into the confession and they say, the Holy Father wants you to do. What a powerful hold that has on people. It's so sinister. It's so sinister. But what
to this day, one more thing. To this day, a Chinese real estate broker named Gao Wengui, who is a friend of Goldman Sachs Jesuit Stephen Kevin Bannon, Gao Wengui made an astounding statement that the communist Chinese government, that right now, today, every year pays $2 billion to the Vatican in Peter's pence, in honesty and not honesty and loyalty tribute to assure that when in days of old, if a king or queen was excommunicated, they were terrified, not because they believed the Pope had the ability to throw them into hell, but because if a king or queen was excommunicated, the Pope would then tell millions of Catholic subjects, you are now released from your loyalty to your sovereign. And they had an assassin. Every Hispanic woman cleaning their toilets, every Irish woman making their food was an assassin. To this day, that is going on. That is in play right now, which is why the dreaded dragon of communist China pays $2 billion a year in Peter's pence to the Vatican right now. It is still a power of control and insurgency. This is not faith. This is not Jesus Christ. This is power. This is control. This is Satan.
This is it. It is Satan, and Satan's behind it all. And I think, I don't even know the numbers of Catholics around the world. It's something ridiculous, like a third of the world's population possibly is Roman Catholic. So that shows you the reach of the Pope and the Vatican. Well, Johnny, brilliant episode again. Guys, if you've not listened to Johnny before, go on his website. He's got a lot of stuff on there, and get his books. Get his books. He's put the research in. I always say that to people. Do your own research. My guests have done their own research, and that's why they're on here. So I'll be back next week, guys, with a new guest. I'm Paul, and this is Beyond the Paradigm.